We recently took a look at the portable version of Most Wanted, which turned out to be a rather weak game of little interest these days. But in the comment they already wrote me that the portable version of Carbon is many times better and in general is a cool game itself. And therefore I suggest not to pull the cat by the hanging clap and fly to see what was cool about this city-owned Carbon and what was wrong with it. First of all, a question to the creators of RetroArch. Why are you putting PSN games in a separate category if it's PSP game anyway? What difference does it make where it was taken from? Having launched the game from the very first frames, it gave her a suck to the portable Most Wanted with the presence of cutscenes. It was not taken from the big Carbon but made from a scratch specifically for this game. And all this is because this game is not simple portable large version of Carbon, but a full-fledged independent game with its own plot, for which I even want to praise the developers. Yes, this story is crooked, as we will see more than once, these cutscenes are rather weakly animated and generally look cheap, but Most Wanted didn't even bother to do this, so it can be said as for a portable very commendable.
You don't recognize me? My name's Sarah. We were friends.
By the way, about the crooked ass of the plot. Yes, the main character has amnesia.
Can you still drive?
Girl, I just got out of the 6 months coma. Are you serious about putting me behind the wheel right away? Do you really want to be in an accident like this again?
This is Carter. He's gonna race us, so it'll be a challenge.
That is, you didn't just let him drive, but immediately straight into the race, where even more reactions is required from a comatose than during normal driving. Brain, you just fuck how much? Before the race, we were shown the control layout, in which, as you can see, the nitro was transferred from the circle of the left bumper, which is slightly more convenient to use with the gas and turns than the circle from the Most Wanted. When the race started, I felt the good old delay in the controls, which migrated here from the last game. It's not as nasty as it is, of course, but still quite nasty. If anything, this is not an emulator problem, because the God of War on the same emulator worked perfectly. But in general, the controls of the game has become much more pleasant, because in addition to the reduced delay, the roads have also become wider and there are no many nasty sharps turned here. More precisely, they are, but there are much fewer of them, and now it has become quite possible to enter them without crashing anywhere.
I guess we'll just have to live with that.
Come on, homie. Let's take your mind off all this heavy stuff. Let's go for a ride.
If you don't know how to end the conversation, invite everyone to go race, cause what else do you have to do besides racing? Just like in the usual Carbon, here we got the partners in the races who can help us in the passage. Two assistants here are exactly the same as the original, but the third has changed from the spy to an assassin. And no, not because this game was made by Ubisoft, but because the spy in Carbon was looking into shortcuts that they decided not to bring into this game. Also, no, I didn't put it exactly right. There are shortcuts, I can see them perfectly on the road, but they just took them and blocked them with these arrows. Whom they interfere with, I did not understand. This new assassin's partner is the same brawler, only instead of hitting the enemy with his car, he is ahead of the enemy and throws spikes at him. Because why come up with a kind of original and unusual replacement for a spy if you can just clone brawler? After each race in which the partner took part, his experience bar will increase and the level will increase over time. Until the very end of the game, I could not understand what was the point of this pumping. How many times they are fucked up in the first level, so many times they will fucked up in the third level. So it is with successful actions. When I activate the drafter, such a powerful tornado starts flying out of his ass, that it sticks me to him even when I am a few lanes away from it. But no matter how comical it may look, in fact, the acceleration of the drafter here works a little more conveniently than in the big Carbon, where in half of the cases, especially at the turn, that acceleration in the accelerated mode fucked you against the wall. Right here, this happens only a couple of times, and then only when I didn't touch the brakes at all. And it seems that according to my review, it might seem that the partner is quite useful, but no matter how. Firstly, running a little ahead, this game is mostly quite simple, and if some overtakes you, it's better to use those two partners, so that they stop the opponent, because secondly, if this accelerator does not accelerate at the end of the race, it's highly likely that he will reach the finish line before you, and if the partner reaches the finish line before you, we will still lose the race, despite the fact that he's fucking member of my team. What's the point of this loss? Of course, I didn't remember all the music in Carbon, but it seems to me that some of the music in this game is unique and did not appear in Big Carbon. this is even half the trouble. The most important thing is that music almost all in the game is very cool. No matter how much I drove here, I constantly enjoy what I heard in the background, due to which, even taking into account the simplicity of most races, it was not boring to drive.
I can't help you go ahead with this. Losing Mick was too much. I'm sorry. My car is off limits. You've lost that privilege.
What do you mean? I just completed 5 races in your car. What the problem with giving it to me for the rest? Let's say you don't want me to get to the truth, but I, as it were, now at the expense of your car, have already earned money to buy new one. What was the point to give it to these races? Already on the choice of my first car, you can see that some of them are unique, which are not in the main game, which is cool. But even though there are more of them in the portable Most Wanted, there are still fewer of them than the main parts of the series, which could be just as bad as in 5.1.0, but here this installation is not strongly felt, due to the reduced complexity and the absence of the need to constantly take more fast cars, which is also not very good, but we will return to this little later. Depending on the color of your car and the color of your team logo, the coloring of the entire menu also changes. It is trifle, but a pleasant trifle. The leveling has also become a little more expensive than it was in 5.1.0, and now it has become a little more interesting to sit in a garage customizing your car. Up to the level of the big Carbon not quite near, but as portable device it's quite good. It even has an open world. Also, I did not understand the meaning of this existence given that there are no police here, but in any case a cool little thing. By the way, yes, the police in this game were completely cut out, and even in separate mode as in 5.1.0 I could not find. Even at the end of the game there was a section of the police in the statistics. Apparently I somehow looked badly for it, but the fact remains that during races I never met any police on the road. There are slightly more racing mods than in the last game. There are still not many of them, but still a certain variety was felt during the game. So you are already a little tired with the race interruptions of your in order to say a piece of history. Why was it not possible to muffle the sounds of the ride in the music and just say it all against in the background the race, so as not to slow down the gameplay so much? No matter how weak our partner's car is, as soon as I press the button to activate him, he, like Samina Suri, transforms his car into a mega powerful car and overtakes any opponents, regardless of his speed, to get to the goal. But when the button is not pressed, he can easily lag somewhere in the very end without even trying to overtake anyone. No matter how cool the music in this game is, sometimes it decided to just go on and off. But going into the pause menu and exiting back, it will start again. Until I understood this, I drove part of the races like this in silence. One of the things that they did better here than in a big Carbon is the bosses, or rather the number. If there were only 4 of them, then there are as many of 14 of them, which also affected the duration. The original Carbon was cut very badly, which made it very short, while this game is somewhere in the level on Most Wanted in terms of duration. But also there are many of these bosses, they are not very famous on this uniqueness. They don't really have any biographies, cutscenes of their participation too, cars are not remembered for the visuals, and they also didn't really appear in the main plot. And just like in 5.1.0, after defeating this boss, we don't win any car from him. But we can take him and his wards to our partners, which would seem cool, and there are a lot of these partners in the list, but I don't really understand what the point in such a large number. No matter how many of them there are all divided into 3 classes, and 2 different dudes in the same class behave stupidly the same on the road. Especially considering that I can upgrade my first partners to the 3rd level, and even these meaningless numbers, he will have more than new one. Big Carbon also suffered from something similar, but their partners also gave the bonuses in earnings, or the cost of spare parts or something else. Right there is no point in changing them at all. In one of the dialogues I found that the leveling affects the number of partners available to me. In other words, I don't fucking need this pump. Quite by accident I came across an option in the menu that allows me to upload my own music to the game. I am too lazy to check how to do it through the emulator and whether it's even possible to do this, but the function is very cool. The original Carbon was famous for its huge pile of soap everywhere. Right here, the soap is not this side, thanks to which it became a little more pleasant to watch what is happening on the screen. In order to open the battle with the boss, it is enough to complete only half, and sometimes little more than a half of the races, which is very convenient if you don't want to go through everything or 100%, and which is not enough in 5.1.0 very much. But the problem is that there is no point in going through the optional races at all. I will always have enough money for the maximum possible tuning, and there will still be plenty left of visual components, and beside that there is nothing else to spend money on. It would seem that it is possible to spend money on upgrading partners, but but only the visuals is upgraded from them, and all of them are available and bought for free. I ran the first boss fight, which turned out to be exactly the same as any other standard race with multiple opponents. I can't even figure out which of these cars is a boss and which is a partner. There was no cutscene with him, the race just started. Yes, also there are cutscenes in the game, there are still very few of them, at least one of the bosses, so that I could know a little better. It would not hurt. And no, this is not one of the several boss races, after which we will take one by one race. It's one single race with the boss and his partners. They forgot to stick license plates on the cars. When I ride first in the race, no matter how close the opponents are to me, I can set an assassin or a brawler on them only when they overtake me, but only if they don't overtake too far, because if the opponent goes too far, again I won't be able to set my partner on him.
Something you should know though, I'm a brawler, but I also have a subclass called Fixer. That means if you use me as your wingman, I can fix the race so you'll get a little extra cash every time you win.
So in the game where I already have money through the roof that I have nowhere to spend, you offer me a dude who can increase the amount of unnecessary money. Well, thanks, what can I say? He was a very useful skill. Since then there was already 2 partners in the race, which is such a simple game is not entirely clear why it was done. If you pump the car and from time to time buy a new one if necessary, then you will always drive ahead and never ever see your partners in the eye. Sometimes of course you can occasionally use it once or duck somewhere and fall behind everywhere, but even in this case it's not too difficult to catch up with everyone back. They will still slow down according to the classics and wait until I catch up with them. If you have ever hovered over an inaccessible part of tuning, when it opens, there will be no mark on that menu item that there's something new there, and therefore when something new opens you need to go into each item and scroll through it to see where it opened. If you want your partner's car to look the same as yours, then you can apply vinyl or coloring not only to your car but also to your partner's automatically, which reduces a little time. But when a new partner appears, he has his own coloring and you have to climb up to him and set it all it should. Also the light from the pipe during the nitro and there is no damage again, the game still looks very good for the platform, but just like in the Most Wanted, it's not clear why it was not possible to release the same version on the portable that was in a previous generation of console, with which this portable could well cope. But also the light does not come on the pipe during nitro. This nitro is now useful and during its use the car really accelerates. And the recovery of this nitro does not occur throughout the race. Since there are no police in the game, in this new mod we have to run away from some random cars, instead of which we could insert police cars and the game would only benefit from this. But the disadvantages don't end there, because during the chase I cannot bring down any disturbance objects on these pursuers, because there are no disturbance objects in the location. Also, even though this is not a race and even though the main goal is to escape from the pursuers, the arrows still show me the exact direction from which it is theoretically possible to deviate, but in practice, in the end, you will not have enough time to reach your destination. What is the point of this open world then? And what's the point of them chasing me if they can crash my car? What do they want to achieve with this pursuit? Another new mod is the exact opposite of the past. In it, now you are chasing other cars and you need to destroy them in certain time. And here it would have been much more logical and interesting if I had been driving a police car like a normal bonus mod in 5.1.0. And so as far as I understand, the main character kicks out members of other people's gang from his territory. But why should the boss of the group do this and not some kind of these partners? And anyway, why am I not driving to break cars of opponents without my assistants, who just the same specialize in breaking cars? And how does this destruction of enemy machine take place? I just touch it and his health decreases. It doesn't matter how this touch happens, even if he crashes into me, only he will receive damage. Very honest. But when these opponents collide with each other or with a wall, their health will not even think to decrease. And for some reason in this mod my nitro is not restored. I never understood why. In this cutscene the hero saw the car from the photo of the crash, chased after it, and the cutscene ended. Before the next race we were shown some kind of incomprehensible flashback with the clock and that's it. We don't chase anyone else. The hero apparently changed his mind halfway through, or I didn't fucking understand what happened in this cutscene. When your partner is about to overtake you after you have activated it, he flashes his headlights in a mirror in advance so that you can quickly orient yourself and give him the way so that he can pass. A few words about the balance of difficulty in the game, which I thought was fucked up pretty badly. So when I race in hell together with my partners, I come first without even using the help. The opponents are training somewhere behind the way. But after I launch the next race in which there are no my partners, and I could only pass it once from the third. It's not fatal and it's even good, sometimes you need to sweat to win, but still it doesn't make the balance less broken than theirs, which we'll see in later. Crashing into civilians no longer causes my car to fly away somewhere in distant galaxy as it did in 510, which is huge plus. Just like in 510, the 2D unfinished silhouette continued to sit behind the wheel of our car. I was rewarded with the in-game art for winning this chase. Fuck, what a useful and necessary reward. How it is even fair in terms of what's going on that I'm the only one with 2 teammates who fuck any opponents you point on a finger at, and my opponent should just live with it and desperately try to pass me without also trying to cheat me out of way.
I know you're gunning for poor boy, and that guy owes me money. If you want, I'll switch over and ride with your crew.
I need the same dude as you, so I will help you to catch him, but only when you have enough reputation, because I don't really want to beat my money out of poor thing.
I ain't no stoolie, alright? But between you and me, there is a whole bunch of crap going on around here about this whole race thing.
You don't even have to look, you won't find what he says in this text, because apparently the developers thought that the owners of the PSP are very bad at reading white letters, and therefore they shortened the text that he says, so as not to strain the eyes of the player who has already planted the eyesight at home from the kinescope.
If you want to find him, try the college. That's the only place.
If you don't know how to end the scene, just blow something up in the background. What it exploded and why nothing happened after that, I still don't understand. After a while, from some random, I realized that Samantha exploded there. What prevented them from showing a frame where she would sit inside the car? Or after this scene, just tell us what was exploded there. If you don't know how to name a boss and her henchman, just call them by the same name and arrange the numbers so that they supposedly different people. Due to the fact that the minimap is always aligned to the north and not in the direction of my car, sometimes there are times when I don't understand correctly which side is on which side and I can go wrong way. By the way, yes, I found a face speed, one single in the whole game. This is just a guess, but it seems to me that the cars of our rivals are made of ultra-light plastic, which weigh 300 grams with a driver inside. Perhaps due to the blur effects of fast cars on tracks here are more often straight, but the speed here feels much better than in 510, whereas the top car at maximum speed I felt like it was driving 60 km per hour, right there at the maximum speed directly high. Sometimes in the middle of the game decided that I needed to focus on how my teammates wrecked the opponent's car, what it is now and why hasn't it happened before. And now my dude just touched the opponent's car a little bit from the side of the truck, from which it immediately began to smoke and became unusable. These are the sensitive trucks that cars have.
I like your style.
That style that is called cheating? Cause I don't know how to else call my teammates who mow down everyone who outtakes me. Why put benches right next to the road? You might notice from time to time that these runaway dudes learn to drive from Paul Walker. I just successfully escaped my pursuers. And don't look that while I was hiding, they were a couple of meters away from me. They lost sight of me anyway. What the fuck is this cone? The only one of all decided to become a piece of stone.
Okay. I swear, I was a patsy, okay? Hey, easy on me, I'm a victim too. I mean, sure, yes, okay, I may have caused the crash, but it wasn't my idea. I needed some money bad, and some dude offered me a pile of cash.
The more I race here, the more I notice the big problem of having an open world in the game, especially one as small as this one. If there were no open world and each track was independent without connection to some big map, more unique tracks could be made. In the same game, due to the fact that this open world is very small, a huge number of races take place on small roads, along the same route, sometimes even one after another. I don't even support the settlement of the tracks. Along them everywhere there are cool scheme graphs of fortune-telling gangs. Yak to refurb on my after the victory over the Barefoot, and yak I am looking forward to refurb the new areas with new bosses. So okay, I understand that one of my partners ran into the spikes that the second partner threw, because of which he lost control and stopped. But what happened to the partner who threw the spikes? He just decided to break up for the company? Why on a straight road a sign to give away? But I'm more interested in where and why this car goes into the wall. About 4 bosses ago I pumped this car into the end and never touch it again. 4 bosses later I am still driving this car. I don't feel any difficulties and now I just beat a 5th boss in this car. Difficulty balance, you're just awesome. But albeit a little, but the complexity still increases a little, and the farther I go in one car, the more often there are cases when opponents stop traveling somewhere behind and even press some kind of challenge. And it would seem that this is good. I myself scolded 510 for not being able to complete the game on one machine. Only if you make it possible not to change the machine and play the game on the very first one, please also give the opportunity to somehow improve it throughout the whole time. Otherwise, no progression in the game after I have finished pumping the car is no longer fell. If the enemy is knocked down somewhere far away, the camera will fly all this way without speeding up or ending, and I will have to watch all this every time it happens. As you can see, sometimes my teammates are great at helping me through the race. What the fuck just happened? Another boss defeated on the first car. Electronic Arts is now also engaged in flights. Guess what planes there are have? The one in which in order to fly you still need to buy wings separately, and it is advisable to purchase a season ticket so as not to crash in flight. This doomed arrow just told me to turn left, while this left will take me to the same place where I would have gone if I had continued to go straight, but now wasting a lot of time driving into this narrow turn. Once again my opponent hit the wall and I didn't pay attention to it and drove on. On the next lap passing this place, I noticed that our opponents, it turned out, do not know how to go back. No, not everyone is like that. This one, for example, learned to take back, but in return for this, he forgot how to turn the steering wheel to the sides. For the first time in the entire game, I finally get to the fight boss 101, where I finally get to see how boring, uninteresting, ununique and unmemorable their car are. By the way, yes, another boss beaten on the first car.
He's dead. Yeah, well, we're trying to find out who killed him.
Aren't we all?
Why do you care?
What did you say?
Why are you looking for a brother? Are you sick of asking that? Approximately something like this. I understood the meaning of this dialogue. Really? There are only 3 bosses left until the end of the game, and finally strong enough opponents appeared, because of which I had to buy a new car. At the time when I already collected 10 of these machines. And all of a sudden, even on the latest fully upgraded car available to me, this opponent just padded my nerves like that. What is this sudden jump in difficulty? Nothing usual, just the car decided to stand on the front wheels, like your car doesn't do that. Either this arrow is fucked up or I'm so naive I again believe these instructions. So I take my words about the difficulty jump back. It was a one-time action, they again became suckers. Like the bosses who mow down with their eyes closed with new machine. Both on the grass and the road, the car behaves exactly the same. Very interesting and useful information, thanks. No more doubt, this arrow was definitely programmed by an asshole. At the Most Wanted 510, I complained that the races there were too long for a handheld, and this problem is fixed in this game. Up to this point, all the races were rather short and didn't particularly bother with their duration. But then the game decided to return its roots, and so dragged out these races before the final boss that I was already started by flashbacks from the last game. Whoa, in the final cutscene, the police suddenly decided to show up. Where have you been the whole game?
Please, get away from me!
What even just happened? The police came, hang out with the racers, then just let me go or what? The cutscene is over, I'm free, what's going on?
It wasn't supposed to be like this. Why didn't you just do what I said? I was trying to protect you.
So, wait a second. Let's rewind for a moment for the very beginning, right after the hero woke up with amnesia.
Упс, ну цього ви не бачили?
He was your brother. The same accident that killed him put you in the hospital. No one knows what happened.
I was taking pictures from the sidelines, but all I got was this.
Searched for that third car ever since, but no one's seen it. Nobody knows who it was. I guess we'll just have to live with that.
The main character woke up with amnesia, doesn't fucking remember who you are, what happened, and in general, that he had some kind of brother there. And you, who didn't want him to find out the truth, took him to his brother in the cemetery and told everything that happened to 2 of them, and even gave a lead to who could do it. Are you completely fucked up, girl? Why not just don't visit him so that he doesn't remember anything, or visit but don't tell anything about his brother, or take him to another city so that he continues to do his races there and could not meet anyone anyone who would remind him of this. I'm not even saying it was the best plan. It was just fucked up plan. Swiss watches were not even close by. You don't want him to know the truth, and so you tell him a piece of the truth, so that he will incorrectly expose the whole truth and take you for a murderer. Fuck, what just ingenious process in your brain are going on? What was the problem right away in the hospital not to tell him everything that happened so that he would not consider you a murderer?
I know you think I killed your brother, but I didn't.
What do you mean I think it was you who killed your brother? When I was told this, how did I come to this conclusion? I only saw you after you blew up, when I could have had time to think that everything was your fault.
I know you're a better man. Here. This should have always been yours.
Yeah, so you also decided to add a relative's no less cliched watch that he wore to the cliched amnesia, I guess what?
У себе в дупі.
And what you don't have to carry in your ass is a disc with this game. Firstly, you don't know whose ass he's been in before. Secondly, what kind of asshole do you need to have a fit disc in it? And thirdly, the game is still pretty good, especially when compared to the last game. Yeah, it still cannot compete with big games, but due to the fact that it has own story, and also due to the fact that gameplay has been tweaked a little to make it interesting, it's quite possible to start at least once and try it portable. It is simple, uncomplicated and even funny at times, so go buy PSP, stick UMD disc out of your ass and subscribe to the channel.